No one in the dusty pavilion expected the lights to flicker like a failing heartbeat. Yet when they did, the whole crowd fell into a hush sharp enough to cut the air. The annual West Range contract auction was always loud, unruly, fueled by money and whiskey. But that night the tension coiled like a rattler under the floorboards. They were auctioning off performance, contracts, specialized labor agreements for ranch employees, show riders, trick ropers, and wilderness guides, but none drew more attention than the young woman standing on the raised cedar platform, her hands clasped behind her back, her jaw stiff, her eyes refusing to blink despite the hot glare of the bulbs above. Lyra Dane had been the talk of the county for months. 2 years prior, she had survived a wildfire that gutted all 5,000 acres of her father's land. She had lost the ranch, lost her family's name, lost every tool and horse and scrap of equipment she'd ever worked with, and clawed her way back by signing onto seasonal contract circuits. She'd become a known endurance rider, a sharp competitor, a woman built of grit when everything else burned away. Yet that night, when the auctioneer cleared his throat and called for the first bid, the room met him with silence so absolute it felt like a verdict. Opening at $25,000, the auctioneer barked, trying to muster the familiar rhythm. Contract valid for 18 months. Endurance riding, tracking, braking, route scouting. A versatile hire, gentlemen. Silence, not a hand moved. Most bidders stared at their boots or fiddled with their tickets. Some made an effort not to look at her. But the tension in their shoulders revealed a shared decision. Lyra felt it like an invisible rope tightening around her ribs. She had known this might happen. Rumors had been spreading for weeks, accusations that she'd abandoned the wildfire lines early, that she'd refused orders during the rescue efforts, that she'd gotten someone killed. All lies, all twisted by people with more power than truth. But she'd had no way to scrub them out. The auction was her only chance to secure steady work, and suddenly it was turning into a public rejection. The auctioneer swallowed and tried again. 25, 2015? His voice cracked. 10? No one breathed. Lyra tried not to shift her weight, but her legs trembled from hours of waiting and weeks of dread. She scanned the faces, ranch owners she recognized, foremen she'd worked with, riders who'd trained beside her. Every single one avoided her gaze. "Gentlemen," the auctioneer hissed under his breath, "we must have a starting." "Pass," someone muttered loudly from the second row. "Pass her," another said. "She's trouble. She's cursed. She's dangerous." Lyra kept her spine straight, but inside something brittle snapped. Dangerous? She had thrown herself into burning brush to save livestock that wasn't even hers. She had ridden for hours without rest to warn families living in the canyon. She had risked her life again and again, and now her reputation was being trampled because someone with a grudge decided she was easier to ruin. Then face the truth. She wanted to shout at them, dare them to repeat their accusations to her face, but any outburst would be seen as proof of instability, and the whole county was primed to believe the worst. The auctioneer let out a defeated exhale. "If there are no bids..." "Hold up." A single voice cut through the pavilion like a knife thrown point first. Chairs screeched as heads turned. Lyra's heart slammed against her ribs. Even the auctioneer flinched. A tall man rose near the back wall, a shadow against the dimming lanterns. Broad shoulders, dust on his boots, hat brim pulled low. People parted around him instinctively, murmuring as recognition spread. Lyra knew that silhouette even before he stepped into the band of light. Cole Harrow, the cowboy whose name still carried a strange reverence in 4 counties. The rancher who'd lost half his land to the wildfire and refused to speak publicly about what he saw. The same man who had disappeared from all circuits for over a year and returned only recently, leaner, quieter, with eyes that looked like they'd forgotten how to close. He walked forward unhurriedly, each step scraping the tension off the floorboards. When he reached the open space at the front, he stopped, tipped his hat back, and fixed his gaze directly on Lyra. She felt it like heat on bare skin, unmasked, unhesitant, unsettling in its certainty. "I'll take her home," he said. Gasps burst from the watchers. Someone cursed. Someone else laughed in disbelief. The auctioneer blinked as though slapped. "Mr. Harrow, we haven't... There are no official..." "I'll take her home," Cole repeated, voice razor steady. "My ranch needs a contract rider now that the canyons have opened again." I'm making my bid. The auctioneer fumbled his papers. Your bid is... Cole didn't blink. Full price. A tremor rolled through the room. Full price was absurd for any contract, much less for one openly rejected. People whispered furiously. He's crazy. He doesn't know the rumors. He knows, someone whispered back. He's the reason the rumors started. Lyra felt that whisper stab through her. She stared at Cole, searching his expression for something. Recognition, apology, explanation. But his eyes revealed nothing except resolve. The auctioneer, sensing a lifeline to salvage the night, slammed his gavel. Sold full price to Mr. Cole Harrow. The energy in the pavilion snapped. Papers shuffled. People scattered as though avoiding the weight of the decision. Lyra stood frozen until the auctioneer brusquely motioned for her to step off the platform. She walked stiffly, throat tight, heartbeat thundering. She told herself she wasn't frightened, but fear wasn't a simple thing. It braided itself with humiliation and questions she couldn't answer. Cole waited for her at the base of the steps, hands hooked loosely in his belt loops, expression unreadable. When she reached him, he gave a small nod. Ready? He asked quietly. She kept her chin high. For what? For the truth, he said. Before she could ask what he meant, he turned and walked toward the exit, and she had no choice but to follow. The night air outside the auction pavilion smelled of dust, juniper and unsettled storms. Thunder rumbled far off, echoing faintly across the canyon walls. Lyra stepped into the darkness beside Cole, trying to steady her breathing. The crowd seeped out behind them in uneasy clusters, whispering like the wind stirring through dead grass. Cole led her toward a battered pickup truck parked under a leaning pine. He opened the passenger door for her, but she stayed rooted to the gravel. Why did you do that? She demanded. His jaw twitched. Get in. We'll talk where walls can't listen. She hated the cryptic edge in his voice, hated that her future had just been tied to a man who spoke in half-truths. But she had no leverage, not after that public rejection, so she climbed into the truck, closing the door with a dull thud. Cole rounded to the driver's side, slid in, and started the engine without glancing at her. They drove in silence for miles, the headlights carving tunnels through drifting dust. Lyra watched the dark shapes of cottonwoods flash past the window. Every mile made her question grow sharper. When she finally couldn't stand it, she asked again, Why did you do that? Cole didn't answer immediately. Instead, he slowed as the road narrowed into a ridge path, the canyon opening below them like a massive wound. Moonlight glinted faintly off jagged stone. It was the same canyon where the wildfire had burned hottest 2 years ago, and where the worst losses had occurred. Cole parked the truck at the overlook and killed the engine. The sudden silence felt enormous. He rested his hands on the wheel and exhaled. You shouldn't have been rejected tonight. You know that. That doesn't answer the question. He nodded as though he agreed she deserved better. The rumors about you, they aren't an accident. Someone spread them very deliberately. I know, she said tightly. But no one will admit who. Cole looked at her, and for the first time his guard shifted. Something heavy flickered behind his eyes. Remorse or fear or both. I know who started them. Lyra stared hard at him. Then who? Me, he said. The word hit like a blow. She felt the ground drop out from beneath her. You? Her voice cracked sharply. You ruined my reputation? You destroyed my chances of work? Why? Why would you? Not because I believed them, Cole said quickly. God, no. I know what really happened the night of the wildfire. I saw it. Her heartbeat stuttered. You saw? What? Cole shifted, running a hand through his hair as though bracing himself. I was on the north ridge when the wind changed. I saw your father come down the slope with the evacuation crew. He was shouting for you. They told him you were already safe. But you weren't. You were still in the lower gully trying to cut a path for the trapped horses. He didn't know. None of them knew. Lyra's breath hitched painfully. The memory was a blur of smoke and screaming wind, the horses panicking, her lungs burning, her father's voice lost somewhere above. She had always wondered why he never reached her. Why she never saw him again. Cole continued quietly, voice roughened by memory. Your father went back into the fire to find you. By the time the crew realized the mistake, the ridge collapsed. He didn't make it out. Lyra stared at him, the canyon lights swimming in her vision. You saw that? I did, his voice rasped. And I heard the man leading the crew tell the others to keep the mistake quiet. He blamed you instead, said you'd refused orders and stayed behind. Against command. He needed to protect his career. I was supposed to back his version. I refused. So he made the rumors, Lyra whispered. Cole shook his head. No, I made them worse. Her stomach twisted. Why? His gaze lowered. Because he threatened to bury the truth forever unless I helped him. He said if I stayed silent, if I spread just enough doubt around you, he'd keep my family out of it. And he swallowed hard. I gave in. I shouldn't have. I thought I could manage the damage, keep it small. But rumors don't stay small. They rot, they spread, and I let them. Lyra pressed her palms against the dashboard as if anchoring herself. The betrayal felt like being thrown back into the wildfire. Heat, confusion, choking disbelief. Cole had let the entire county believe she was reckless, unstable, dangerous. He had let her name burn again after she had already lost everything. She wanted to scream. She wanted to strike him. She wanted to run. Instead, she forced out, "Why tell me now?" Cole's eyes lifted slowly, and this time the remorse in them was unhidden, sharp enough to cut, because he's planning something far worse. The canyon trails are reopening next week. He's pushing for a government contract to manage the reconstruction crews. If that succeeds, he'll have enough leverage to bury all past records, including what really happened with your father, permanently. Lyra felt her blood go cold. Cole continued, voice low. He doesn't just want you discredited. He wants the wildfire narrative sealed in his favor, and he knows the only person alive who saw what he did is me. So saving me at the auction was, what, a last apology? She asked bitterly. No, he said firmly. It was the only way to keep you close and safe. If he knows we're working together, he'll panic. He'll slip. And then we expose him. That's your plan? She asked, almost laughing in disbelief. Tie me to a contract you sabotaged, drag me to your ranch, and hope guilt inspires confession. Cole leaned forward, elbows braced on the wheel. No plan I make will ever be enough to fix what I did, but I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for the chance to help you uncover the truth. Your father deserves that, and so do you. The canyon wind howled through the cracked window. Lyra stared at Cole, struggling to reconcile the man who had destroyed her reputation with the man offering her the truth she had been desperate to uncover for 2 years. You should hate me, he said quietly. I do, she whispered. I think I do. He nodded once, accepting it like a sentence. But, she said, voice shaking, I want the truth more. Cole exhaled shakily, relief flickering across his face. Then we start tonight. She looked at the darkness stretching across the canyon that had swallowed her father, the same canyon that held the secrets that ruined her life, something old and grief-shaped twisted inside her, igniting into a sharper resolve. Then drive, she said. Let's find what he tried to bury. Cole turned the key. The engine rumbled awake. As they started down the ridge road, thunder cracked above them loud, enough to shake dust off the cliffs like the sky itself had been, holding its breath, waiting for the truth to finally break open.